As I slowly opened my eyes, I realized I was in a dark, musty room. My head was pounding and I couldn't remember how I got here. Panic set in as I tried to remember the events leading up to this moment. I struggled to get up but quickly realized that my hands and feet were bound with thick ropes. I frantically looked around the room, searching for any clues as to where I was and how I ended up here. The room was bare except for a small table in the corner and a flickering light bulb hanging from the ceiling. The walls were made of concrete and there were no windows, only a heavy metal door with a lock on the outside. My heart raced as I pulled at the ropes binding me, hoping to break free. My mind raced, trying to piece together what happened before I woke up here. I remembered going to bed in my own room, but everything after that was a blur. As I struggled against my restraints, I heard footsteps outside the door. My heart skipped a beat as I realized I was not alone. The door creaked open and a figure stepped into the room. It was a man dressed in all black, wearing a mask that covered his face. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to make sense of what was happening. The man stood in front of me, his eyes hidden behind the mask. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a key, unlocking the ropes that bound me. I rubbed my wrists, feeling the raw skin where the ropes had cut into them. "Why am I here? What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice shaking with fear. The man remained silent, his gaze unwavering. He motioned for me to follow him as he led me out of the room and down a long corridor. We passed several other rooms, all locked and empty. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that washed over me with each step I took. Finally, we reached a room at the end of the corridor. The man pushed open the door and gestured for me to enter. I hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. The room was dimly lit and I could make out a figure sitting in the corner. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I realized it was a woman. She was tied to a chair, her face bruised and bloodied. I gasped in horror as I took in the scene before me. The man turned to me, his mask hiding his expression. "This is your doing," he said in a low voice. "You brought her here." I shook my head, bewildered. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know who she is." The man's eyes narrowed as he approached me, his presence looming over me. "You will remember soon enough. You will remember the pain you caused." With a sinking feeling in my gut, I realized that he was right. The memories flooded back to me in a rush, filling me with guilt and remorse. I had been involved in a car accident that had left the woman in the corner paralyzed from the waist down. Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at her, knowing that I was responsible for her suffering. The man watched me with a cold detachment, knowing that I would have to face the consequences of my actions. As the reality of my situation sank in, I realized that I was not just locked away in a room. I was trapped by my own conscience, forced to confront the mistakes I had made. The man left me alone with the woman, leaving me to grapple with the weight of my guilt. Hours passed as I sat in the room with the woman, lost in my thoughts. In the silence, I heard her gentle sobs as she stared out into the darkness. I knew that I had to find a way to make amends for what I had done. The next day, the man returned and led me out of the room. He took me to a hospital where I met with the woman's family. I apologized profusely for my actions and promised to do everything in my power to help her recover. In the days that followed, I visited the woman every day, offering my support and companionship. Slowly but surely, she began to heal, both physically and emotionally. And as she forgave me for my mistake, I found redemption and peace in her forgiveness. Locked away in that room, I had faced my darkest fears and emerged a changed person. I had learned the power of forgiveness and the importance of taking responsibility for my actions. And as I walked out of that hospital, I knew that I would never forget the lessons I had learned in that dark, musty room.